There are bottom of the barrel moments for some people. You know what I mean? Where there are those moments when you hit bottom and you go, wow, this is it. I'm getting a good gander at this area, and this might be the worst it gets. And then, right when you go, you start getting comfortable with the idea that you've hit bottom, you end up on Flashpoint. Don Jr. Is on Flashpoint. It's on Flashpoint. I mean, we all thought Rumble was you know, that's a pretty much a digital career flatline that I'm gonna build it all around Rumble. By the way, I now discovered there's a setting on Rumble where you can look at what the Rumbles actually earn you as far as money, and there's a reason why everybody turns on the number of Rumbles and not the actual cash amount, because most of Don Jr.'s videos are earning about 31 cents. That's the most. I think 31 to 52 cents is the most I've seen them earn due to the number of Rumbles where people are using their Rumbles to tell them what's up. Guys, Flashpoint, guys. So just when you thought it couldn't suck worse, woof. And by the way, I mean, obviously this is a step up. He's on Dish, he's on DirecTV, and he's on Roku. So obviously a huge leap ahead in terms of visibility over Rumble. Should I because we now have flank.com. If you haven't had a chance, please go to flank.com. And here, I don't know if I'm even able to do this. Am I able? Yeah, look at that. So now I'm going to destroy my entire screen by doing, here you go. Now I put this in here, and then I can, anytime we get in trouble with YouTube, I can, hi guys, YouTube, I'm presenting an if-then argument around some of the shit that these folks are saying. Please recognize. All right. It's going to be, yeah, I agree 31 cents is too much for this. But I mean, we're going to get, this is, whatever he's getting on Rumble, I'm sure this is gold. He's obviously saving the stuff for Flashpoint. I don't even...
Give people a real quick synopsis.
Oh my God. And live from the pile of work that he refuses to do. Oh, look, he's got antlers now. Another staked animal shot from far away.
Before we get into anything else, Don, about what's really in the book.
Oh shit, man. Really? I didn't even... He's on Flashpoint pushing the book? This is the media tour? What? I honestly thought he was just this is a direct hawking that's happening. Thank you, Martha.
Well, basically everything that you see going on in the country right now, Gene, like I called it.
You called that the world likes our favorability rating in the world is at 79% for Biden and 17% for your dad. You called it that. Oh wait, I have a video I want to follow up with this. By the way, just put a pin in everything. It's gonna suck. It sucks. It's gonna suck, and it's always gonna suck. And I know it doesn't suck as much as you think it sucks now, but it's totally gonna suck. Conversation from this sucko, because I have a video that features Maria Bartiromo that is. It must be the most painful video she has had to make since the Dominion apology. It's never been a better time to buy gold. That's exactly.
The cards were on the table. Everyone knew it. And the media did whatever they could to try to hide that from the American public. So, part of what I'm...
Hide what from the American public? The case against your dad by E. Jean Carroll?
Say now, it's like, hey, guys, this information is out there. You're just not going to get it from mainstream sources who really aren't journalists anymore, but they're simply the marketing arm of the Democrat Party.
It's amazing that the Democrats are such an extraordinary group of people that they absolutely can not only take over the United States of America, but the entirety of the media within the country without firing a shot. I mean, there have been, thanks, Don, for your faith in the Democratic Party, but there have been some massive, military takeovers of both media and government in the world. And the fact that this guy thinks that the Dems are capable of owning all these organizations. And now, not only do they have the media and all of our government, the Democrats have also taken over big tech, and corporations are now woke because of it. And it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that the vast majority of the things that he's deriding that supposedly means the Dems own these institutions is simply those institutions reflecting the reality of modern life and the messaging that's going on around that the American public wants to hear and the leanings of the public. Because again, 60% of Republicans are actually for the infrastructure bill almost in its entirety, and yet not a single Republican is going to vote for it. So when we talk about swamp creatures in Washington that don't listen to their voters and all think about their donors and live in Washington and are disconnected from the entirety of the country, there is no better example right now than the Republican Party as a whole.
They go against so many of the things that me, you, your viewers actually believe.
That the Earth is 6,000 years old.
But again, if you look and you don't just blindly follow the mainstream media, this stuff was out there, whether it be talking about what's going on in the Middle East right now,
what's going on in the Middle East right now? Seriously, I'm sorry, maybe it's the mainstream media. You mean, the drawdown in Afghanistan's actually happening. There's actually a schedule for it, and it's actually going to occur, as opposed to promises all during the right. Okay, so that is actually happening. You mean the ceasefire that the Biden administration negotiated with Egypt, helping them talk to Hamas behind the scenes between Israel and the Palestinians, that is currently holding. You certainly don't mean the Abraham Accords, where your dad sold $50 billion worth of military equipment to countries that weren't at war with Israel and called it a peace deal.
Whether it be attacks on religious liberty, whether
attacks on religious liberty. You mean when you couldn't go to church because you were because of COVID, because the government didn't want large gatherings to murder old people, and a lot of people go to church are older, and therefore it'd be a petri dish of death. And just because some snake handling asshole thinks that he can get away with that we should just let that slide? Is that how it works?
Whether it be the attacks on life.
Yes, so we're just attacking life everywhere. That's the whole thing on life. That's what if you really think about what the California assault weapons ban was that whole time, it was an attack on life. Gun safety regulations like stopping ghost guns and straw purchases and that kind of shit, that's really an attack on life.
And certainly the pro-life movement.
Your dad's had more abortions than he has kids.
Whether American jobs and energy, all this stuff was out there. We knew exactly what it was going to be, and now this is sort of a little bit of a combination of an I told you so tour.
Except you didn't. Thank you, Deanne. Guys, yesterday's show kept me awake on the drive home from picking up my college kids stuff. Thanks for keeping me awake with laughter. I'm trying, Deanne. I'm glad the puppet show worked the day before as well. Michelle, thank you so much.
Maybe you got to stop listening to the people who are not aligned with you and start listening.
Yeah, it's true. Don't listen to people who are not aligned with you. Only listen to people who are aligned with you, which is why Don Jr.'s only place he can go to hawk his book is Flashpoint.
To those voices.
And by the way, Flashpoint is, if you don't know, is basically the view for end times wannabe Elvis religious fanatics.
That are, and I'm also doing a little bit of a makeup tour. Obviously, when I launched the book,
I wasn't wearing any makeup.
It was trying to get out. It was in the midst of a pandemic. Right. Some of the.
Excuse me, citation needed. That was no big deal. It was like 14 cases, and it went down to nothing, and we were all able to go to have Easter in public at church last year. We did that. I don't know if you know. I mean, honestly, that was all fake, and everything you need to know is that like there was no pandemic. And all right, sorry, I have to do that to protect myself. I should put a button. Hold on, I need to put a button on my thing real quick. So let's see. Will it allow me to do it? It will allow me to do. Yes, it will. Oh, good. Let's do source. In collection scenes in the commentary one, and the thing is this one. Yes, that's right. And now I have a button that makes it happen. This is so exciting. All right, I'm gonna dick around, and my video is gonna get choppy again. We're all gonna be upset. So let me stop right here. I'm pushing the technology beyond its limits. All right, here we go. It's an I told you so, and I desperately need blow money book tour.
Some of the things had to cancel because of COVID scare. So, if I tell someone I'm going to do something, I do it. I keep my word. And so we're making up some of that. So we're excited to be in Texas.
So you were planning to be on Flashpoint last year, but it was too low rung and you passed on it. And now you need it because you're not selling any copies of the book at all. On
July 16th, we're going to be in Florida doing this. But again, it's showing.
Doing what? Hawking your book? You're doing a book tour? Good for you.
The American public that the information that we need is actually out there. If you look at what's gone on, Gene, in the last 2 weeks, wow, Trump was right.
Yeah.
Huh? Who would have thought, Gene? Who would have possibly thought that maybe, just maybe, the virus originated in the lab that studied the virus?
By the way, should I even, just for my own safety, should I go like, he's kidding, ladies and gentlemen, he's kidding? No. Nowhere has anyone confirmed that it came from a lab in Wuhan. Like, he's using the idea that this is how an idea virus jumps, because we all know it came from that region. The question was, did it leak from the lab and get to the wet market, or start in the wet market, and because they're messing around with these things, it spread, and that did whatever. No one questioned that the first cases started in Wuhan in the Hubei province and spread through there. The Chinese government was locking people in the Hubei province to try to keep them from spreading through the rest of the country. And it didn't work. Like, no one questions that. The question is that what he wants you to do is go, since everybody is confirming currently what we knew about regionally and specifically where it came from as far as a city, that it's somehow tied to the lab for sure, which I wouldn't doubt, but that doesn't mean it's been confirmed. But he wants you to take the leap from, it came from this area, the lab is there, therefore it came from the lab. And since it came from the lab, you must make the leap that it was intentionally created in the lab to be sent here. This is the leap that's being sold currently about the virus, is that it wasn't just made in the lab because they had lazy security, which is the one thing we were paying for and we cut off the funds for because Trump. But the important thing is that he wants you to make the intellectual leap yourself, that if this, then that, immediately chains it to, it was created in a lab and it was an attack and they did it on purpose. And the Democrats, by not saying that it happened on purpose and calling this the greatest bioweapon attack in the history of the world, which is what it would have to be if that's what it was. And just in case you've forgotten, this asshole's father was president when this dude alleges that we were hit with the biggest bioweapon attack in the world, and his father played footsie with the people who allegedly sent it. And then, of course, you've heard it all: beef, corn, and soybeans. This is,
3 feet away from where they claim someone ate a bat, which was actually the cause of the virus. Remember this?
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't 3 feet away. The wet market is in that town. And by the way, still not confirming this. But again, keep in mind, this is the leap he wants you to make. He wants you to make the leap from, it was made in the lab because they were cultivating it in the lab, and then it got loose because they don't have good security there, or someone in there, this is the main story I heard last year, was that somebody at the lab was selling the animals afterwards to make a quick buck in the wet market. Once they were done with them, they were selling the diseased animals under the table for consumption. And that's how it may have gotten out. And that was one of the, I mean, we were hearing that last year. This is not news. What he wants to make you think is that this sort of normalizing of the conversation around this leads to it was on purpose.
Yes.
Anyone with a brain, Gene, said,
so that excludes both of you, I guess.
Hey, cause effect. This is a probable scenario, if not the more likely scenario. And if you said that, you were canceled.
No, you weren't.
Was over. Oh, it turns out. So,
there were multiple articles about whether or not it came from the lab, got to the web market, it was in the market and went to the lab and bounced it around, or whether people were selling it. There were multiple articles about this last year. That's not what got you canceled. What got you canceled, I think, if anybody can show me somebody was canceled for asserting any of this, was not for saying that it may have originated in the lab and it got out and it leaked. Excuse me. I'm going to... got dusty. That in doing that, alleging those things, you never got in trouble. What you got in trouble for was calling it the Kung flu at the time. That's the kind of racist addendums that these folks, this is what Steven Crowder doesn't recognize he gets kicked off for all the time. And then these guys clamor that we're being kicked off because of our conservative values. And it's like, no, it isn't. You're violating the terms of service about bigoted language. You are being abusive and hateful while your conservative values are on display. Apparently, this is the idea, is that you can't apparently deliver your conservative values, whatever they may be, without being a bigoted asshole. And you get bounced for being a bigoted asshole. So, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what else Trump will be proven right about in the not too distant future.
Don.
I do know one thing that he's right about, that if his daughter wasn't related to him, he'd probably be fucking her. That he did say that. So
I know this seems like a...
What was that edit? Look at this long cut fade in here. What is that?
What else Trump will be proven right about in the not too distant future?
Don, I know this seems like a...
What was that? What? I mean, how do you get... They had to get somewhere to get in and out of something that was said to shorten it.
A silly question, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. Are you
Are you worried?
Worried that Joe Biden is taking America to a point of no return, like you
yeah, that's what he's worried
wrote
about.
in the book, Liberal Privilege?
Yeah, listen, the subtitle of the book is Joe Biden and the Democrats' Defense of the Indefensible. And that's exactly what it is.
That's amazing. I use language so well.
I mean, again, I saw that coming a year before it actually started to happen. But when you...
It's almost like you made it up. And by the way, again, Jesus, man, your notes are right there. You wrote the book. Or did you? I mean, maybe that's right. Sorry, that was my fault. I overstepped. Clearly, I assumed because the book has his name on it that he wrote it, but knowing his dad, it was probably ghostwritten, and that's why he's got to look at notes about what's in his book. About his own, my predictions, I said this over a year ago. That's why I forgot. I had to write it down because it's been so long.
When you look at what's going on in commodity pricing, when you look at the destruction of American energy, when you look at the
destruction of American energy. The destruction of it. And you, of course, know that he means the getting rid of the Keystone Pipeline, which is, of course, for Canadian shale oil. And then, of course, the hack on the pipeline that slowed the processing of gas on the eastern seaboard. So New York and everybody, on the East Coast was like, oh, my God, gas prices.
Shutting down of our pipelines. When you look at Joe Biden relaxing policies to allow Russia to have a pipeline. So Russians can have a job. They can
yeah.
deliver gas and oil to Europe, who we then spend billions of dollars protecting through NATO. I mean,
well, we're not protecting them from oil. And this is a German issue. This is not Europe in general. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of the Europeans are getting their gas and oil that they get from that region anyways from, wait for it, Ukraine, after Burisma stopped being a corrupt corporation and is actually functional and able to sell gas and oil to the Europeans.
This is just abject stupidity. They're shutting down our pipelines with hackers. They're shutting down our meat processing facilities with hackers. Notice that this stuff didn't happen under Trump.
Yeah, because he didn't fire the head of CISA until after he lost the election. And they were, and by the way, this stuff was happening under Trump. Can I just say that for the record? All right, hold on. God damn it. I'm going to end up calling up pages. Okay, hold on. No. Let's see. Let's see. Money recovered from hackers. So the Colonial Pipeline hack, the U.S. recovered $2.3 million in the ransom paid to the Colonial Pipeline hackers, right? Now they did a major story on this. This kind of went around and people talked about this, and this was about go away. I'm watching a thing. Federal government has recovered millions of dollars in cryptocurrency paid in ransom to cyber criminals who prompted the shutdown of the country's largest fuel pipeline and gas shortages across the southern U.S. last month, Department of Justice announced Monday. On May 8th, Colonial Pipeline paid a ransom worth roughly $4.3 million in Bitcoin to a Russian-based hacking group known as DarkSide, which used malicious software to hold the company hostage. Colonial Pipeline CEO Joseph Blount told the Wall Street Journal that the company paid the pricey ransom because the company feared a prolonged shutdown. It did not know how long it would take to restore operations. The ransom allowed Colonial to restore fuel transportation through its pipeline, which stretches from Texas to the Northeast and delivers 45% of fuel consumed on the East Coast. By the way, it starts in Texas. The company's headed in Texas, where the energy grid took a shit. Just saying. I mean, we've all, obviously while Texans were freezing to death and Ted Cruz went to Mexico to, vacation with his family and some girls from the neighborhood, we all, assumed because of how Republicans are terrible at governing that the breakdown in the electrical grid was caused by incompetence and weather, as opposed to the very strong possibility that it had been weakened by hacking and they just ignored it, or just, these companies have been paying and keeping it under the table. But here you go. Officials said the FBI was able to track down and recover 63.7 bitcoins, currently valued at about $2.3 million. The operation marks a rare ransom recovery for the critical infrastructure company that fell victim as the ransomware as a service business model booms. It marks the first recovery by the department's new ransomware task force. So there was no ransomware task force when Biden came into office. There is one, and this is the first time I have ever heard anyone recovering Bitcoin from someone else. So here you go. Earlier today, the Department of Justice has found and recaptured the majority of the ransom Colonial paid to the DarkSide network. Using technology to hold businesses and even whole cities hostage for profit is decidedly a 21st century challenge, but the old adage, follow the money, still applies. I want to find the part, Justice Department officials said investors tracked down the bitcoins to the cryptocurrency's public ledger and identified the virtual currency account known as a wallet used by DarkSide to collect payment. The FBI obtained the wallet's private key, enabling agents to seize the funds under a court order by a federal judge in the Northern District of California. Today, the FBI successfully seized criminal proceeds from a Bitcoin wallet that DarkSide ransomware actors used to collect a cyber ransom payment from a victim. Since last year, we've been pursuing an investigation into DarkSide, a Russian-based cybercrime group. DarkSide ransomware variant is one of the more than 100 ransomware variants that the FBI is currently investigating. Last week, you know why you didn't hear about it? Because when they were going after Russia, basically Trump was and the DOJ were telling them to give it a pass. I mean, we indicted a bunch of hackers in absentia in the last 3 years. Let's see. During the Colonial attack, when Colonial was attacked on May 7th, we quietly and quickly contacted the local FBI offices in Atlanta. That's their owners last week. Russian-associated cybercriminals known as Rebel employed ransomware and an extortion scheme against JBS, the world's largest meat processor. The attack forced the Brazil-based company to cease cattle slaughtering operations at 13 of its meat processing plants in the U.S., threatening the U.S. food supply. These are the guys, by the way, the Brazil-based company they're talking about here are the ones who got a huge amount of cash from the from the Trump administration when, you know, he was talking about all this tariff money is going to American farmers, and there was pushback from the, you know, the Democrats specifically saying this should go to American farmers, not big agribusiness, not multinationals, because it's specifically hurting American farmers, not their business in other countries. And these two Brazilian billionaires ended up getting a shit ton of money, same company. Apparently they didn't use any of that money to protect their cyber infrastructure. Yeah, so, yeah. Let's see. It has become clear that we need to use several tools to stem the tide of this serious problem, and even law enforcement agencies need to broaden their approach by beyond building cases against criminals who may be beyond the grasp of the law. In addition to the immediate benefits of this approach, a stronger focus on disruption may disincentivize this behavior, which is growing in a vicious cycle, because it happened last year and the year before. It happened repeatedly, and basically the Trump administration in general just gave it a pass. Because our enemies understood that Donald Trump had a backbone. They understood that Donald Trump had resolve. And then why didn't he form a ransomware task force like Biden did and go proactively against these guys instead of just indicting them in absentia? That was the whole point. Trump had every opportunity to do this shit. The DOJ went after these things as a point of law, but they didn't form any extra, you know, groups within it to go after to actively attack these hacker groups. Yeah. And that they weren't going to get away with that nonsense. They did get away with that nonsense until the ransomware task force just got their Bitcoin wallet, dipshit. Joe Biden doesn't have that. Just look at what's going on the border. It's a practical invitation to come over here. Oh, yeah, a practical invitation. Let's see. Harris, I think, what's a practical, I mean, what would you say is a, you know, let's see. I don't know, I'm just trying to, let me find a version of events where you can,
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration.
So yeah, I mean, that's practically an invite. You know, if you want to, you know, if you're just being practical, guys. Therefore, you have a humanitarian crisis on the border. Donald. Yeah, unlike when your dad was dumping 8,800 kids in Juarez. Trump shut down significantly the flow of drugs across the border. No, he didn't. The flow of humans. You know what shut down the flow of drugs across the border? COVID. Sex trafficking victims and children across the border that way. Yeah, are you guys, I forget, is Matt Gaetz actually forming the task force for the Republicans in that, or is he bringing in Mark Foley back in to do that? Or is it Dennis Hastert? I forget. Now it's a free-for-all again. And honestly, I'll have to say this, like, I grossly underestimated Joe Biden. I thought it would take him years to destroy America. It's only... You mean, and by America, he means the entirety of the Trump presidency, which was all written on toilet paper, and one wipe of the ass made it all go away. Taken him a few months. Yeah. It's happening at lightning speed. I know. Look out his window. Those buildings are all on fire. Flashpoint can't even broadcast anymore. You know what I mean? This country, it's fallen apart. There is nothing left. Look how much work he can't get done because of all the how America's falling apart right around him. Speed, and it's probably not Joe Biden, because I don't know that anyone actually believes that he's all there. All you have to do is watch a speech, and I'm not. By the way, they have to say this now because everyone watched a speech of Trump's and went, "Oh my God, COVID brain." Saying a particular one that he flubbed, because I don't know that I've ever seen him actually get through in a speech without a major flub. I have. And I don't, because I don't consider his stutter a major flub. But
so just look at any of that and say, who are the leftist handlers that both despise America and are pushing these ridiculous and asinine anti-American policies upon him? He's just sitting there signing them.
Yeah, Don, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned the board.
Project much. By the way, this is from the guy whose father got his list of judges from the Heritage Foundation. That's why he could kind of give or take any of them. He's like, yeah, I want them in there, but they could go. And then he's always disappointed by the judges he puts in when they don't go his way. And he's like, this wasn't my idea. I barely know them. That's true, because the Heritage Foundation and a couple other conservative think tanks provided him with a list. And then he checked it off, and there with a promise of, them treating him like a god later.
In the border, I want to, what possible? I'm hearing Americans, concerned Christians that are conservative across America, going, I don't get it. Why wouldn't Biden control our borders? Why would he not do that? You got a question?
Well, because he is.
You got an answer? You got an opinion there?
Yeah, listen, the radical left wants to flood, our country with people who will be dependent on big government. That is their job. That is what.
By the way, laying aside the abject bigotry of the idea that Hispanic immigrants from South America, Guatemalans, Brazilians, Mexicans and stuff, when they come to this country, are somehow, according to Don Jr., guaranteed to be lazy welfare queens. Like, understand, there's your Latino outreach right there. That's your outreach for Republicans in a nutshell. Is P.S. All people of Hispanic origin or Mexican or South American descent who come up to the United States either legally or illegally, cross the border, get in the country, are somehow, the entire goal is that they are reliably going to be on the tit of government forever. This is the opinion of Don Jr., everybody at Flashpoint, all of the Republicans, that they are going to be guaranteed Democrat welfare voters, that they will be paid through welfare checks to vote for Democrats, and it will be a never-ending cycle. Now, culturally, especially if you're the kind of person who will make the trek from Guatemala on foot to get to the United States, maybe you summit for a while, for about 6 weeks. But a lot of these people start businesses and work their ass off. So the idea that just think about the racism of, if they're not murderers and rapists and they're being sent here by the Mexican government to attack the country, because that's also the other story. Like, Trump is very friendly with the Mexican president, but he also empties his prisons into the United States, sending rapists and murderers and all these other people up here to attack us. And yet, good guy, I have a good relationship. That part I don't get. But he'll put 28,000 soldiers on the northern border when he's planning. How are the murderers and rapists supposed to get through if he's? Why did he just keep them in prison? It's like the whole thing falls apart. But understand just the abject racism of what he's saying right now. That migrants, when they come to the United States of America, the country where, when people go there, when people leave their country to come to the United States, the entire purpose is anybody of any class, of any color, can build wealth and create something. That's the country. If you just want to go and be on the government dole, one would think they would all just go straight to Venezuela and vote for the government there, according to Republicans, right? Ugh.
That's what they do. If you're dependent on big government, the Democrats have something for you. If you're
What do they have for you? A single payer system that you can buy into? Small business loans? Equal rights for if you want to get a loan and start your own business?
If you're an independent, free-thinking
white person from New York who's a third-generation slumlord,
self-sufficient individual, sort of the conservative values that we all know, espouse, and love, the Democrats don't offer you all that much. But if you flood counties and states with these sort of potential and likely perhaps lifelong dependents in many cases.
You hear that? You hear that? Just so you know, let's be abundantly clear that the migrants coming up here, the men, women, and children that make it all the way up here, who cross the border and come in, who apparently, by the way, aren't going to be able to vote because they came in illegally, and they'll lose their ability unless they, round 3 of DACA, or the idea that there'll be another Reagan that creates amnesty for a bunch of people, and then they become citizens. Which, by the way, ask Orange County if all the Hispanic people there automatically vote Democratic because they're in America finally and they made it. Like,
many cases, that's a great voting base. You see what they're doing. There was I think it was something on Tucker the other night where,
well, yeah, if it's on Tucker,
they're talking about, hey, they're coming across the border and they're immediately being bussed to either, purple states or red states that they think they can convert. And if you send enough people over there, all of a sudden you'll be able to elect Democrats. I mean,
yeah, those people can't vote. And especially if they're trying to become citizens. If they have asylum requests and they try to vote illegally, they get kicked out. If they want to stay, they have to abide by the law. They have to become citizens. And if they vote when they're not a citizen and they're caught doing it, they don't get to become citizens and they get deported back to where they're from. What do you think is more important to them? Staying here and having a shot at a life here, or once every 2 years sneaking around and trying to get in to vote for, I guess, $5? I don't know what it is.
To me, there seems like there's a big plan in here.
Well, that's because you come from a long line of people who are incapable of plans, and that's why you took your grandfather's business, which built buildings, and have shifted into a marketing arm.
There's definitely a plan, and they're executing it flawlessly. I have to,
Yes, even when they're evil, Democrats are better at organizing than Republicans.
I have to give them the respect of that. They're doing it flawlessly. I think it's going to be the destruction of our country.
Why would it be? Oh, because Mexicans are lazy, right?
But
Guatemalans are welfare queens, and when they get up here, they can't wait to, live off the tit of big government. Because people who escape Venezuela come to the United States so they can vote for socialism. What?
They are getting it done, and we are sitting there,
sitting there next to a stack of work. You still haven't done shooting Rumble videos while your dad golfs.
With our hands behind our backs, wondering what's going on, which is why we need more conservative fighters. I think we spoke about this last time, Gene. Right. I mean, it's sort of the conservative, live and let live,
that's the mantra of conservatism.
Mantra to turn the other cheek. It's just not going to work anymore.
Tell him, Don, you're on a Jesus show. Tell him what a sucker Jesus was. Tell him, go ahead. I mean, it's finally somebody actually just tell him how that whole thing about love one another and, turning the other cheek. That was all nice and good, back 2,000 years ago. But now, it's got to be an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. We need to go back to the Old Testament shit. This New Testament garbage, I don't even know what they're. All right.
It hasn't worked in 50 years. And I understand the ethos. I understand sort of the religious implications behind it.
Do you? Tell us. I would love to. Where's your TED Talk on the depth of your Christianity?
It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't. Turn the other cheek does not work anymore.
They love that we've taken that sort of approach for the last half a century.
Since when have Republicans been turning the other cheek for 50 years? What?
Because it's allowed them to gain a foothold in virtually everywhere. You see, the woke Pentagon. You see woke FBI. You see woke Army recruitment.
Which, by the way, seems to connote when he says woke, the concept of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, turn the other cheek, all those aspects of Christianity that they're talking about that is inclusive, and that means that all people are equal children in the eyes of God. All have something to give. All, that kind of idea that used to actually be the seat of Christianity in the country. But, that's the issue. So All right. I mean, it's
and ads. It looks more like an ad for auditioning a Disney princess than it does for the U.S. Army. This stuff is going on in America right now.
They were shot during the Trump administration. I mean, they've been working on that one cartoon ad for at least 15 months.
Love that we've turned a back seat. Let's be live and let live. We'll turn the other cheek while they get every win imaginable and take over every institution.
That's right.
From pop culture up on through. I'm not going to say law enforcement because I think the door kickers fully get it. And
oh my God, the door kickers again. He loves that phrase, the door kickers. Like, this asshole gives a shit.
They're on our side.
Yeah, but they're not on your side, apparently. Ask Rudy Giuliani about doors and kicking. He'll tell you a big lie about the FBI and the marshals showing up at his house with a warrant. You think he told the truth about them? Your dad's lawyer who's hiding behind his skirt right now?
But the upper echelons of leadership, the lawyers, not the guys that carry guns, they're fully indoctrinated into the leftist principles.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah, amen to that.
The reality is this.
What the fuck? Again, maybe they're just slicing this down into digestible parts.
Those who believed in Trump still do because they understand and see what's going on. Those who believed in the media narrative and just said, you know what, maybe we don't need mean tweets anymore, realize that, maybe the mean tweets, if they're honest, are actually sort of important. And when you look at gas pricing, you look at lumber pricing, you look at the Middle East, you look at the list of things that are a total disaster from the border on down, you start realizing,
maybe the cure for COVID would have been a mean tweet. Maybe if he had tweeted against COVID the way he tweeted against other people, like called it names or something, maybe it would have retreated back into the lab. We never thought of that. That's maybe if Trump with his magic tweets could have solved all these world problems. And all right. Jesus.
You know what? Maybe I could use a little bit of that $1.83 gas and a couple of mean tweets. That's right. Probably better for our country. It's better for our families. It's better for our livelihoods. And it's better for our children who want to grow up in a country that we recognize, which I'm not sure we will do if this, ridiculous path continues.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Agreed.